Michael Melfi with Taylor English and TEGC. Today we're going to talk about the funding sources of angels, VCs, and PEs. And someone may say, Michael, what'd you just say? When you think about it, there's different types of funding sources. You can go to your family and friends. You can go to people who are interested in early deals. You can go to people who are interested in later stage deals. It really comes down to risk tolerance to who you're going with. When you think about angel, they're typically early stage, highest risk. VCs, the risk early stage is still there. Late stage goes down. And when you get to PE, you're now dealing with more about valuation and cash flow of an existing business with historical data and financials. And so the risk profile changes typically by that. You say, Michael, why is this important? It's kind of like talking to a wine connoisseur or a wine sommelier and saying, I'd like to have a red or a white wine. There's nothing wrong with that. To them, there are Chardonnays and there are Cabernets. And there's types of wine that when you're using that language, you're speaking their language. It shows a level of knowledge, maybe a level of sophistication. And so when you're talking to individuals in an ecosystem and you say, oh, I has started a company and I'm talking to some PEs, that doesn't make sense. It'd be like pairing a port with appetizers. It's just not going to work. And so what you want to do is just make sure as you're demonstrating things that you are investable and doing things to be investable, knowing the language. I talked about in a previous video about the love language. This is part of it. Knowing who you're speaking to and who they are, that's an important part. You wouldn't call somebody by the wrong name, would you? You wouldn't introduce them with the wrong profession. So understanding whether they're an angel, a VC, and a PE is part of the conversation. And so when you think about that, I often get asked, well, what are they looking for? And they're looking for good deals. They're looking for great entrepreneurs. They're looking for teams that can execute. They're looking for things that can be disruptive. They're looking for things, and this was the first time I ever heard, I go, wow, that's I don't like that. They're looking for something they can put their money in, and they believe, well, 100x. Not 1x, not 2x, 100x. So how do you demonstrate to them that you have something revolutionary that can 100x their money? That's what they're looking for. And what they're going to typically do is want to put that money in a certain type of vehicles. Depending on the project, usually, like I can tell you, a typical VC deal likes a Delaware C Corp. Have I seen many of a deal go into a corporation or LLC at an early stage? Yes. If they end up going for VC funding, it usually ends up as a Delaware C Corp. Have there been companies that have grown to be $1 billion that are still an LLC? Absolutely. PE has invested in LLCs and corporations. A lot of it has to do with tax structure and other implications that we're not going to get into here, but understanding what's the right entity and what's the right structure for you, which we've recorded in other videos to talk about this, would be a great thing for you to look into. And so I think that's important to understand. They're going to be making investment into a vehicle, which is your company. What does that need to look like? The other side of it is he or she with the money makes the rules. And people don't like hearing that. But at the end of the day, a lead investor or someone who's going to buy in your idea is going to have some say or want some say in the deal terms. Most of the time, unless it's a rich relative or a good friend who just believes in you, they're going to have some stipulations to the money. And so what they're looking for is important. It's a lot of times there's a set of items, which we're not going to go through in this video, but also there's standards like industry standards. So a while ago, it wasn't uncommon to have a convertible note. Now you're seeing the trend move where there aren't many deals getting done in convertible notes anymore. They're all moving to safes at an early stage. When you get into PE deals, there's certain structural and mechanical aspects of the transaction that are going to be there. Indemnities, warranties, and reps. Like those are things that are just going to be there that any buyer or seller, any investor type person is going to have certain items that your professional team's going to know. Your CPAs and your attorneys know this. That's what they do. And if you find the right one, they can guide you through the process because they're going to know what needs to appear in the term sheet so that when you get the deal, you're going to be able to then memorialize with the documents. So really being able to understand what legal protection, what rights investors are looking for is going to be important. One note we'll talk about another time is side letters. That's a way to sometimes take care of that. And we'll talk more about that in another video. And I think at the end of the day, when you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to take an investor and I'm going to keep running my business. A lot of times investors are going to want to have a say in the business. You'll hear that they want to be on a board. They want observation rights. There's going to be things that you have to do with your corporate governance for your entity, whether it be an LLC or corporation, to accommodate the investor's needs and wants and desires. And that's always, it's funny, I just got an email yesterday. It's as much an art as it is a science. And so how you manage that and how you handle that is going to be important as you have that negotiation with the investors. Again, at Angel, it's going to be different than VC. At VC, it's going to be different than PE. And it just really depends on knowing where you are in the spectrum. And, I always use the love language of the investor. You got to know what language they're speaking to be able to speak to them and communicate with them and have them fall in love with you, your team, and your idea. And I think the last part is there are regulatory implications to any type of deal. And what I would say to that is if you're taking money or you're fundraising, do not do the deal without talking to a professional. At the very least, there may be a license you have to get. There may be filings for securities, most likely securities if you're fundraising. There's going to be things you have to do from a regulatory and compliance standpoint that are important in any deal. And it's better to check that box and get it done than not. And so in today's conversation, it was really, again, we talked about 3 types of investors: angels, VCs, and PEs. They're all very different. Knowing them and what they need and they want is the most important first step. And then once you get into that, understanding the structures used, what type of legal protections they're looking for, what type of regulatory compliance is necessary, all those things are important when having an abundant conversation with your funding source. That being said, I want to thank you for watching. I'm Michael Melfi with Taylor English. We'll see you on the next episode.